Okay, so I'm looking at my list of assignments here, and I have this assignment coming up called the Basic Astable, and that's going to involve me building something in Tinkercad, so I'm going to have a look what it is I'm trying to build. All right, this one's a little bit simpler. I've got my 555 timer, and I've already set one of those up, so I have a pretty good idea of how it works. I've got a 5 mega ohm resistor here and a 5 mega ohm resistor here. 100 nanofarad capacitor, a 220 ohm resistor, and a 5 volt supply. There's nothing attached to the control, which is weird, but this looks like it's a pretty simple circuit to do. So what I'm going to do is zip over to Tinkercad, where I already have the thing partially set up, just to speed things up here. I have my 555 timer, and I have it powered from 5 volts here on the power terminal, and I have the ground connected to ground. This is my reset right here, and I've set my reset to positive 5 volts. The control's not attached to anything, nothing else is connected, so I have to look at my circuit diagram and start putting things together. So on the input side of things, I have a 5 mega ohm resistor going to the discharge from 5 volts. So I'm going to get that set up. I already have the power here on the power supply, the voltage on VCC, and the reset. So that's already done. So now I need to go a 5 mega ohm resistor into the discharge. The discharge is right here. So I need a 5 mega ohm resistor, and this is it, 5 mega ohms from the positive terminal into the discharge. There I am at positive 5 volts there, and here I am connected to the discharge on the output. So that's good. But the discharge and the trigger are connected by a 5 mega ohm resistor. So I have to go from I have to have my discharge and my threshold connected together. There's threshold and discharge. So I'm going to just quick jump a wire between them. That little jumper gets me from one to the other. And then I have to go through a 5 mega ohm all the way to the trigger, but the trigger's way over here on this side. So it's going to take a little bit of geometry to make my way around. You see I'm blocking the control voltage there a little bit, but it doesn't matter because I'm not using the control here. I'm going to go from here and jump over to this side because I'm headed for the trigger. And then from here, I'm going to zip right over to where the trigger is. So I've got a 5 mega ohm resistor that goes from the discharge. I have made a mistake there. It is my threshold that is connected to the trigger on this one. So I made a little bit of a mistake in my circuit. I don't want the discharge and the threshold connected together. I want the discharge connected to the threshold through the 5 mega ohm resistor. So I'm going from the discharge, here we go, this way. A little bit of a mistake. So I'm going from the discharge, and that's got to go to the threshold. So I'm going to back up and go to the threshold like that. Fun. And also to the, oh shoot, a little bit silly. I overshot it with that one, made it too long. So I'll go from here to here, and then from here over to the trigger. Now I've got it right, because I've got a 5 mega ohm resistor coming in to the discharge from 5 volts, and then through another 5 mega ohm resistor, I backtrack to the threshold, which is right there, and I come all the way around to the trigger. What else do I have? Okay, so come all the way around. Now from the trigger, I'm going to go to ground through a 100 nanofarad capacitor. So here's my 100 nanofarad capacitor. The trouble is the trigger's right here, but I can't fit that in anywhere. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put that capacitor out here in space, and we'll move over a little bit, make things compact, and go from the trigger to that capacitor, and from that capacitor to ground. So what that gets me is from the trigger through the capacitor to ground. So I have that part of the circuit all set up now. Now, time to deal with the output. And all I'm doing, once again, as I did in the last one, is I'm just going to hang an LED on the outside of this in order to see what sort of behavior I get from this Astable. So from my output, I want a 220 ohm resistor from the output, and I think I'm just going to take the output and come out here, and then attach to the output. I think I want to rotate this resistor like that. This is my 220 ohm resistor, like that, and then that is going into my LED. And that is going to my LED, and my LED is going to ground. I don't like anything about this so far. Just the geometry of it I don't like. I want my LED to be out somewhere where I can see it. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go, here's my output to this resistor, the resistor over to here, my LED, I'll plop right here after I attach the LED's other end to ground. So go ground off the top there like that. All right, so I go, that's pesky. So I go from the output, or from the, sorry, here's the output. Right? I go from the output through the resistor, through the anode of the LED to the cathode to ground. So hopefully I've got this wired up right. I seem to be a little bit dodgy on how I've set the thing up. But now I'm going to go ahead and run the simulation and see what happens. Bingo. A blinking LED, and that's what an Astable does for me. It creates this blinking effect. The frequency of the blinking and the duration of the blinking can be controlled by changing the 5 mega ohm resistors or changing the value of the capacitance, or both in combination. There are actually equations out there for figuring out exactly which resistors and capacitors you should choose to get which frequencies. I didn't want to get all mathy about it and do some equations to figure out exactly what sort of blinking frequency that I wanted. But here you go, blinking Christmas light LED. So what I have so far, I'm doing really, really well with these new circuits, is I have a circuit that I push a button and it turns on an LED for a very specific amount of time and then shuts off. And now I have this lovely Astable that produces a blinking LED light.